In the headlines of VTV News, Vietnam to develop a stable, safe, healthy, sustainable stock market. Surge in orders boosts textile, garment, and footwear industry. And later on in our world news, UN calls for expanded humanitarian aid in Gaza.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello and welcome to VTV News broadcast live from Hanoi. You're with me, Lina Fatman. Here's the top news of the hour. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh chaired a conference to deploy the task of developing the stock market in 2024 on February the 27th. In 2023, the stock market continues to affirm its role as an effective capital channel for the economy, with a total capital mobilization value of more than 418 trillion Vietnamese dongs, an increase of 33.5% compared to 2022. Over the past year, the market has continuously grown in size and mobilized 3.8 million billion Vietnamese dongs for the economy. The size of stock market capitalization grew positively from 0.22% of GDP in 2000 to more than 33.5% of GDP in 2010 and more than 58% of GDP in 2023. The Prime Minister emphasized that developing the stock and bond markets is an important task, affirming Vietnam's determination of upgrading Vietnam's stock market from marginal to emerging market in 2025, attracting indirect investment capital of about $25 billion per year. Vietnam plans to regulate payment procedures in the stock market for foreign investors. This is an important measure to convince FTSE Russell to consider upgrading the Vietnamese stock market from a frontier market to an emerging market. This is expected to attract huge capital flows into the country.
Vietnam is expected to attract about $2.5 billion if the stock market is upgraded. Securities companies believe that the bottleneck related to 100% deposit for foreign investors can be removed. Instead, there should be regulation to stipulate the non-margin to equity ratio.
The deposit amount can be $12 million to $40 million per day for each securities company, so it's easier to calculate the total amount of the market. The possibility of losing payment capability for small portfolio over equity is almost zero.
If the transaction is successful, but foreign investors have not paid enough money, securities companies can use proprietary trading to complete the transaction.
After securities companies finish depositing, investors can pay those companies later.
To ensure the obligations of the parties, 16 banks which are depository members in Vietnam take the role of depositing, preserving, and transferring securities to foreign investors.
We are managing a large amount of assets of foreign investors, so we're willing to act as a bridge to ensure the fastest progress and smoothness of payments.
In order to upgrade the market, the State Securities Commission of Vietnam and market members have prepared solutions. However, regulations need to be adjusted and supplemented to implement them.
Some articles of Decree 155 and some guidance circulars of the Ministry of Finance need to be amended. We hope to submit and amend them as soon as possible to limit risks and ensure transparency on the market.
Upgrading the market will help Vietnam meet global financial market standards and attract more capital inflows, thereby realizing the target of stock capitalization reaching 100% of GDP by 2025.
The real estate market is predicted to continue its downward trend for the first half of 2024, with signs of recovery anticipated in the later half of the year. Recent statistics from the Ho Chi Minh City Department of Construction reveal that despite being the only industry to experience negative growth last year, the real estate market has seen slight quarterly improvements. Specifically, there was a negative growth of minus 16.2% in the first quarter, 11.5% in the second quarter, and minus 8.7% in the third quarter. Overall, the year 2023 experienced a negative growth of minus 6.38% compared to the previous year. However, the market is expected to start recovering around mid-year. The textile, garment, and footwear industry is experiencing a surge in new orders. Specifically in Dong Nai province, many businesses are hiring additional workers to increase production activities and meet the industry's growing demands.
Despite having 30,000 employees across its branches, this company is still looking to hire more workers to meet the rising order volume.
We are delighted that orders are returning, and as a result, we need to hire 700 additional workers. We recruited some before Tet, and we are still seeking more workers.
On the other hand, this company is working an extra hour overtime to keep up with new orders, signifying good business.
Though we only have short-term orders in the first quarter, it is still quite stable.
According to the Provincial Labor Confederation, recruitment demands increase. Many companies report a need for an additional 1,000 to 2,500 workers.
We are expanding our production lines and hiring more workers to promptly fulfill orders.
According to the Employment Service Center of Dong Nai Province, businesses have sought to hire nearly 16,000 workers in various occupations since the start of the year. Notably, the textile, garment, and footwear industry alone has posted a demand for 9,000 workers, accounting for more than half of the province's total needs.
The Indonesian National Food Agency has announced that due to a domestic rice production shortage caused by the El Nino phenomenon in 2023, the Indonesian government plans to import an additional 1.6 million tons of rice. This presents an opportunity for Vietnamese businesses to continue exporting rice to Indonesia, a market of nearly 280 million people. So far, the Indonesian Ministry of Trade has issued rice import licenses for 2 million tons. It is expected that the Indonesian government will soon open more bids to purchase additional rice. The Vietnam Trade Office in Indonesia advises Vietnamese rice exporters to stay informed about market trends and seize opportunities to export rice to the Indonesian market in the early months of the year. In 2023, Indonesia became Vietnam's second largest importer, purchasing over 1.1 million tons of rice, worth more than $640 million. Now, rice prices are currently plummeting, causing concern among farmers and the export business community. The record high prices before Tet had excited farmers, but now the erratic fluctuations are causing worry for both rice growers and businesses. At present, the entire domestic industry is waiting for more positive developments.
Currently, rice prices have decreased by approximately 30% since before Tet, now ranging between 2.8 and 3.2 cents per kilogram. Both businesses and farmers are hesitant to trade. Businesses anticipate further price drops, while farmers hope for increases.
Before Tet, we wouldn't even sell to traders at the price of 3.9 cents per kilo, hoping it would increase to 4.1 cents per kilo. Although the price drop is unfortunate, compared to other crops, the price is still high and farmers can still earn a profit.
The winter-spring crop yields the largest output of the year, contributing to 50% of the total annual harvest in the Mekong Delta region. Because of this, importers are waiting for price reductions. Additionally, domestic export businesses are also hesitant due to limited capital resources. However, rice prices are predicted to rise over the next 3 weeks. If businesses continue to delay purchases, they may not secure enough quality goods for this year's rice export plan.
As El Niño is expected to last until April, and saline intrusion in the Mekong Delta is putting the yield of the next crop in question due to the current low inventory situation, it is better to have a storage plan to stabilize rice prices in preparation for a potentially lower yield in the summer-autumn crop scenario.
Banks and credit institutions should promote lending to businesses that have sufficient capacity to export. Once businesses make purchases, farmers will be willing to sell.
According to the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, rice reserves in many countries are projected to increase by 1.1% this year. However, since global demand still exceeds supply, sellers control the market. Farmers and businesses can leverage this to secure production and meet this year's export target of 8 million tons of rice.
And before we move to the next part of VTV News, let's check out how the Vietnam dong is weighed against other currencies in the world market today. Coming up next, Vietnam Airlines hosts International Airlines Symposium 2024. And a blood donation festival collects nearly 9,000 units nationwide. Vietnam Airlines hosted the International Airlines Symposium, or IAS, in 2024 in Hanoi, the capital city. The conference welcomed around 60 delegates, including leaders from aviation and non-aviation organizations and businesses across various countries. This event was a significant opportunity for Vietnam to display its capabilities and contributions to the aviation sector. The symposium served as a platform for valuable discussions and idea exchange among industry professionals, fostering the further development and progression of the global aviation industry. The IAS is an annual conference initiated in 1988. It brings together leaders and experts from various sectors in the global aviation industry to deliberate on important issues. Nearly 9,000 units of blood were collected nationwide during the Red Spring Festival from February the 18th to the 25th. This festival is the largest annual blood donation campaign, as reported by the National Institute of Hematology and Blood Transfusion, or NIHBT. Since its launch in 2008, the event has attracted hundreds of thousands of blood donors and collected over 121,000 blood units. The campaign has been instrumental in ensuring a stable blood supply for those in need and raising public awareness about the importance of blood donation. Sóc Trăng is one of the regions significantly impacted by deep saline intrusion. Since the beginning of February, the saline concentration along the Hậu River has penetrated almost 50 kilometers into the province. Local authorities are urgently addressing the situation to minimize risks to agricultural production during this year's dry season.
According to the Long Phu District Irrigation Management Station, the highest measured salinity level is 12 parts per thousand. Currently, all 30 salinity prevention sluices in the area have been sealed to prevent saltwater intrusion.
We have dispatched staff to measure salinity 4 times a day. We have also updated our measurements in the system and promptly informed the public through mass media channels.
In Cù Lao Dung, the district monitors the salinity levels at all 26 large sluices, 200 small sluices, and along 81 kilometers of salinity prevention dikes. This ensures the safety of over 3,000 hectares of various types of produce land.
In recent years, the district has invested in sewer and dike infrastructure to prevent salinity effectively and store fresh water to protect our farmland.
Some effective measures include alternating between wet and dry irrigation, using slow-release fertilizers, and using foliar fertilizers. These contain many necessary substances and active ingredients to increase crops' resistance to drought and salinity.
The forecast indicates that saline intrusion in Sopchang will be unpredictable, with salinity potentially reaching 0.1 to 0.5 parts per thousand higher than the same period. The Provincial Department of Agriculture and Rural Development has issued an urgent request to functional branches and local authorities seeking assistance to protect farmers' production.
As the afforestation season reaches its peak, Thừa Thiên Huế province is actively advocating for sustainable forestry development. The province's goals are to stabilize and significantly enhance the natural forest area, establish new areas of protective and special use forests, and cultivate high-quality large timber in association with the Sustainable Forest Management SFM certificate. More in the following.
In Phú Xuân Commune, favorable weather conditions have allowed locals to fertilize and care for their forest trees planted before the Lunar New Year. They have planted acacia trees across 113 hectares as part of a forest planning project associated with a Sustainable Forest Management certificate. The trees are expected to be ready for harvest in approximately 7 years.
We check newly planted forest areas to promptly prune dead trees. So far, our forest has grown well.
Thừa Thiên Huế province has planted over 20 million seedlings for afforestation activities. Locals have proactively grown seedlings for their use and to supply for cooperative members. Consequently, the local forest trees have flourished, resulting in higher quality.
I have searched for new seedlings to renovate and create a new plant nursery.
We have directed the relevant authorities to plant forests and aim for multi-purpose forests.
In 2024, Thừa Thiên Huế province plans to cultivate over 6,000 hectares of forest. The province currently boasts over 12,400 hectares of substantial timber forests, comprising acacia species and native trees. Of these, over 11,900 hectares of forests have earned certification for sustainable forest management. Thừa Thiên Huế province continues to maintain a steady forest coverage of more than 57%.
Hot weather can negatively impact the aquaculture environment. Besides enhancing the resilience of farmed seafood, safeguarding the farming area's environment is also a critical concern. Many regions in Vietnam, including Khánh Hòa, have arranged boat trips to gather aquaculture waste and transport it to the mainland for processing.
With 20 years of experience in aquaculture, Thong is well aware of the challenges posed by polluted farming areas. Thus, as the number of farming cages increases and farming becomes more concentrated, he has joined a cooperative group dedicated to environmental protection.
If aquaculture waste continues to be discharged as before, then in 1 to 2 years the sea will be heavily polluted.
We must work together and make a commitment not to dump waste into the sea.
Leftover food from the previous day is collected from a designated spot in each cage. The layout of the farming rafts should also allow for easy access for garbage collection vessels. These operations are all supervised by 6 farming cooperative groups in Nha Trang Bay.
In the beginning, it's not easy to change the locals' habits. Fishermen tend to choose to dump waste directly into the sea instead of paying some money for vessels to collect garbage. So, we have to provide examples from other farming areas with polluted seas for them to understand.
Since mid-October last year, waste collection from aquaculture activities in Nha Trang Bay has increased. With 150 cages in this area, at least 20 tons of food waste need to be collected daily.
Aquaculture waste must be collected during the day. If 2 trips are not enough, we will organize more trips.
Nha Trang's long coastline and sheltered bays offer favorable conditions for marine farming. Keeping the sea free from aquaculture waste is seen as an effective method to sustain the livelihood of local residents.
Among the oldest fishing professions in the southern seas of Vietnam, the traditional offshore net fishing now only exists in a few localities with a relatively small number of fishermen participating. Fishermen plant rows of pillars made of large bamboo trees deep into the seabed. On those pillars, fishermen build shelters and spread nets to catch fish. People here also say that this is the most dangerous profession in the waters of the Mekong Delta. One's death may be one's destiny. However, despite the dangers, there are still families who maintain this profession both to make a living and to keep tradition. The following report is made in My Long village, Trà Vinh province.
Lê Minh Dien, a fisherman in My Long, has been doing this job for more than 30 years. Today is the day Dien goes out to collect fish at the offshore nets, about 15 nautical miles from the mainland, which means nearly 30 kilometers.
Every year I only fish at the offshore nets ground from March to September of the lunar calendar. During the other months, the sea is very rough and we cannot set out. This profession is the career of our grandparents since ancient times.
While waiting for Dien and the ship to go out to collect fish, Lê Minh Phúc, Dien's brother, immediately prepared to collect the nets. On each row of pillars are small huts large enough to shelter 2 to 3 net keepers. The only means of moving back and forth between huts is rope. In this offshore profession, the hut keepers have the hardest time and are also the most vulnerable.
I go out to guard the hut twice a month. Each time I stay in the hut for 7 to 10 days.
The unexpected storm prevented Dien's ship from getting close to the huts to collect the net. All they could do at that time was to sit and wait.
The wind is very strong up here. The hut could collapse. When it collapses, I'm sure to drift away. If the weather is calm, there are fish. If the sea is rough, we can't catch fish. This job depends on the weather. I have to follow the weather.
After more than 3 hours of anxious waiting, the waves finally calmed down and the sea became gentle. Tonight is the night of successful net collection for the whole team. These small shrimp are purchased in large quantities by animal feed processing factories at high prices.
If the sea is calm, this profession also gives a good income. This is a traditional profession, so I will do it until I no longer have enough strength. My son will continue this profession.
Fishermen doing this job always face the hot sun and strong wind. They even bet their lives when the sea is rough, so they all love the sea and consider it their home.
Coming up next in our world news, UN calls for expanded humanitarian aid in Gaza. And Russia bans gasoline and oil exports for 6 months. The United Nations Security Council has just held a meeting to discuss food security and humanitarian assistance in the Gaza Strip. A World Food Program representative warned that at least 576,000 people, or a quarter of the population, face hunger. Nearly all 2.2 million inhabitants of Gaza require food assistance. Child malnutrition in Gaza is among the highest in the world, with 1 in 6 children under 2 years old facing acute malnutrition. During the meeting, country representatives urged Israel to decrease conflicts and maintain open border crossings to ensure the safe delivery of aid to Gaza. The U.S. announced on Tuesday a $53 million aid package for affected Palestinians. This announcement brings the total U.S. government funding for Palestine since October 2023 to over $180 million. Russia has announced a 6-month ban on the export of gasoline and oil from March the 1st. This move is deemed necessary to stabilize domestic prices given the increasing demand from farmers and the need for periodic maintenance of oil refineries. The temporary ban will not impact the agreed volumes of gasoline supplies to the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union, or EAEU, Mongolia, Uzbekistan, and the territories of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. The Russian Ministry of Energy reports that the country's gasoline output in 2023 rose by 3.9%, reaching nearly 44 million tons. Germany plans to amend its carbon dioxide storage law to permit carbon capture and offshore storage for specific industrial sectors, German Economy Minister Robert Habeck announced on Monday. This indicates Berlin's firm commitment to achieving carbon neutrality by 2045. More on this to come.
Carbon capture and storage involves removing carbon dioxide produced by industrial processes from the atmosphere or capturing it at the emission point and storing it underground. A 2012 law in Germany restricted its use by allowing federal states to veto it. However, as Europe's largest carbon dioxide emitter, Germany is expected to miss its goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2045, leading Berlin to rethink the use of carbon capture and storage.
So, the technology is safe. The carbon dioxide remains in the ground. Secondly, time has run out.
The strategy will form the foundation for a bill to revise the country's carbon storage law. It aims to establish a clear legal framework for developing a carbon dioxide pipeline infrastructure. However, before exporting carbon dioxide internationally, Berlin must ratify a clause in the London Protocol. This international treaty on cross-border waste exports permits the transportation of carbon dioxide for subseabed storage.
We need to sign the so-called London Protocol. However, transport, which was previously prohibited, should also be permitted in Germany. That's why we are amending the carbon dioxide storage law.
Germany possesses between 1.5 billion and 8.3 billion tons of carbon dioxide storage capacity beneath its North Sea, with the potential to deposit up to 20 million tons annually. Industries with high carbon dioxide emissions that cannot be electrified, such as cement and lime, will be among the beneficiaries.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.